Luke was on Octo, sitting on the ancient rock he had used so often for meditation. The wind cut through the cold air, carrying the distant sound of waves crashing against the cliffs. His thoughts were steeped in regret. The memory of Ben Solo's fall, the weight of the destruction of the Jedi Order he had tried to rebuild, and the legacy of his father that always haunted him. "Where did we go wrong?" he whispered to himself. The Force seemed silent, but at that moment something began to change. A different energy coursed through his body, as if time had opened up before him. A flash took his vision, and when his eyes adjusted, the sea horizon had disappeared. Before him, imposing towers rose toward the sky. The air was different, charged with movement and life. Ships cut through the skies in organized routes, and in the distance, Luke saw the majestic silhouette of a city he knew only from stories. Coruscant. His heart raced. He was in a time long before his own, before the capital of the Republic at the height of its glory. He walked, still stunned, down the busy avenue. Droids and citizens hurried by, paying no attention to the man in the tunic who seemed out of place. But Luke did not see the crowd. His eyes were fixed on the Jedi Temple, its towers shining in the sunlight. That was where it all began, and that was where it had all been destroyed. Emotion tightened his chest as he felt the Force vibrating intensely around that building. Without hesitation, he climbed the stairs leading to the entrance. Upon entering the temple, he was struck by the sight of young Padawans in training, laughing and running through the corridors, their voices filling the air with innocence. Luke paused for a moment, absorbing that image of an order still alive. It was like seeing ghosts from a past that had always been told to him as a tragedy. With each step, his determination grew. He had not been brought there by chance. It was then that his eyes found a familiar figure, a younger man, standing tall and determined. It was Obi-Wan Kenobi, but not the old hermit from Tatooine who had guided him, but the Jedi Knight in his prime. Luke shuddered, feeling the memory of his master mingle with the vision before him. "Master," he murmured without realizing it. Obi-Wan, in turn, frowned when he heard that strange voice. Obi-Wan approached with the posture of a knight on guard, without aggression, but ready to react if necessary. "Who are you?" he asked firmly, analyzing the stranger in worn clothes who seemed to carry an invisible burden. Luke's heart tightened when he saw the face of his master, still young, alive, and full of energy. Emotion almost overwhelmed him, but he restrained himself. "I am someone the Force has brought here. I need to speak to the Council. It is a matter of life and death for all Jedi." Obi-Wan kept his gaze fixed, trying to read the truth in the stranger's expressions. There was something strange about him, not just his tired appearance, but the intensity of his eyes, as if they carried memories that should not exist. "The Force is strong in you," he commented suspiciously. Luke looked away for a moment, struggling not to let slip the truth he wanted to shout. "You have no idea how much." Guards approached, but Obi-Wan raised his hand, signaling them to stand back. "Whoever it is, they need to speak to the Council." Luke nodded, feeling the strange mixture of respect and longing that Obi-Wan's presence aroused. They walked side by side through the corridors of the temple, and Luke observed every detail, trying to memorize what had been lost forever in his time. The doors to the council chamber opened, and there sat the greatest masters of the Order in their circular seats. Mace Windu watched the newcomer closely, while Yoda tilted his head, curious about the energy emanating from this man. Luke stepped into the center, feeling the weight of many eyes on him. There was no turning back now. Luke looked up and his heart raced when he saw Yoda sitting silently, just as he remembered from his last days. The same deep gaze, the same weight of wisdom that always disarmed him, but now in full vitality, radiating strength and serenity. A wave of emotion swept through his chest, as if time had broken only to allow this impossible reunion. Before he could compose himself, his eyes met Anakin's. Young, intense, vibrating with energy in every gesture. The same flame that Luke knew only from visions and stories. Seeing his father not as the warrior fallen into darkness, but as a full Jedi, was like receiving an invisible blow. The Force vibrated around him, recognizing the bond that united father and son, even if Anakin could not yet understand it. Luke felt his memories blur together. Yoda's teachings during his exile, Anakin's final sacrifice for redemption, and now these living, real presences pulsing before him. It was as if he carried within him two stories that should not coexist. For a moment, the weight of his mission seemed overwhelming. But then, taking a deep breath, he understood. This was exactly why he had been sent here. "My name is Luke," he began. "I come from the near future, brought here by the Force. I am here to warn you that the Jedi Order is on the verge of destruction." The silence was absolute, broken only by the soft murmur of the Masters as they looked at each other. Obi-Wan, still standing behind him, seemed torn between disbelief and unease. Mace Windu raised his chin suspiciously. "That sounds like a threat." Luke stared at him firmly. "I did not come to threaten, but to warn. The Chancellor you trust is, in fact, a Sith Lord. He will order the execution of all of you. Order 66 has already been prepared." The words echoed like thunder within the chamber. Yoda closed his eyes, silently seeking the Force. Strange is this visitor, but truth in his words I feel. Great shadows over us are. Obi-Wan took a deep breath, his heart racing, unable to shake the feeling that this stranger was indeed telling the truth. Anakin stood in the center of the room, his fists clenched. With each word Luke spoke against the Chancellor, his expression hardened. "Enough of these senseless accusations," he said, his voice thick with restrained anger. "Palpatine is an honorable man. He has given us the leadership we need in this war. If it weren't for him, the Republic would have fallen already." The words echoed through the room, and Luke felt the same stubbornness he had heard so many times in his own life. His father's inner struggle was just beginning. Mace Windu crossed his arms, staring intently at Anakin. "Your loyalty to the Chancellor blinds you. Can't you see that his closeness is dangerous?" Anakin turned immediately, glaring at Mace. "What you call closeness, I call trust. He believes in me more than many here. Unlike some, he has never doubted my worth." Luke watched everything in silence until he realized that if he didn't act, the meeting would end in discord and nothing would change. He raised his voice, calm and firm, letting each syllable hang heavy in the air. "My name is Luke Skywalker." The silence was instantaneous. Obi-Wan, who until then had remained merely attentive, widened his eyes as if struck by an invisible blow. Anakin took a step forward, completely stunned. "What?" The name echoed like thunder. Yoda leaned forward in his seat, the Force vibrating intensely around that revelation. Anakin stared at Luke, confused and disturbed. "You're lying. This is some trick to get to me." But there was something in that man's gaze, a truth that Anakin couldn't shake. Tension dominated the council, each master sensing that something much greater was before them. Luke took a deep breath and let his voice gain weight. "In the time I come from, your nightmares have come true. You turned against those you loved most, and Padme, she died." The words hit Anakin like a blade. He staggered a step backward, his face overcome with shock. No, that can't be true. His breathing quickened, and his mind plunged into the fear he had always tried to hide. Obi-Wan looked at Anakin, the pain visible in his eyes. Padme. Dead. Her name had never been mentioned within the council, but now it hung over everyone like a shadow. Yoda closed his eyes, reflecting. Fear of loss. Dangerous it is. Path to darkness. This fear opens. Luke stood firm, but inside the pain of reliving the tragedy consumed him. Anakin put his hand to his head, confused, as if fighting a storm of emotions. "You don't know what you're talking about. You're trying to manipulate me, just like the others." But his voice no longer carried the same certainty as before. He felt that Luke was talking about something that couldn't be made up, something that touched exactly where his nights were haunted. Mace Windu seized the moment to press his advantage. "You see, Anakin? Even a stranger, coming from outside our time, knows the secrets you try to hide. The Chancellor is the key to all of this." Anakin, however, looked away, unable to face the accusation. Padme's name held him silent, as if he were facing an inevitable fate. Suddenly, Luke's form began to become translucent, as if the Force were calling him back. He looked at the masters around him, his voice soft but firm. "Time is short. You must act. If you wait, it will be too late." Obi-Wan took a step forward but couldn't touch him. Luke already looked like a specter, a ghost who should never have been there. Anakin stared at him wide-eyed, caught between anger and fear. "Come back! Explain what you mean!" But Luke was already fading into light, his presence dissolving into the room. Silence fell as he disappeared completely, leaving only the feeling that they had witnessed something that would forever change the course of the galaxy. Yoda was the first to speak, his voice deep and calm. "Warned we were. The truth before us lies. Prepare ourselves we must." Mace Windu nodded firmly. "We can wait no longer. The Chancellor must be confronted." Obi-Wan remained motionless, his heart heavy with the weight of what he had heard, but aware that Luke was not an illusion. He had come from the Force itself. The Council Masters began to discuss their next steps, each word laden with urgency. There was no longer any doubt. Palpatine had to be stopped, and quickly. Luke's revelation had made it clear that the fate of the Jedi was at stake. The Jedi Council decided to act before it was too late. Yoda, Mace Windu, and other masters headed for the Chancellor's chamber, determined to put an end to the Sith's hidden rule. The air on Coruscant felt heavy, as if it sensed the approaching storm. Palpatine greeted them with his usual diplomatic tone, but Mace was direct. "You are under arrest, Chancellor. Your reign of shadows ends today." Palpatine rose slowly, his eyes flashing with fury. "You dare accuse me? Traitors! The entire Republic will hear about this attempted coup." Before anyone could respond, he revealed his crimson saber, attacking violently. The room was filled with the glare of the blades. Yoda intercepted the first blow, while Mace advanced from the side. The duel of sabers and the energy of the Force transformed the room into a battlefield. In the Jedi Temple, Anakin paced back and forth inside the council chamber. Windu had been clear. He should stay there, away from the fight, to prevent his feelings from getting in the way. But anxiety burned inside him. The memory of Luke's voice, the revealed surname, the words about Padme. Everything swirled in his mind. He closed his eyes, trying to convince himself that the Council's order was fair. But something compelled him not to remain silent. In the Chancellor's chamber, the combat intensified. Palpatine fired Force lightning, reflected by Windu and Yoda's blades. His fury grew with each passing moment, but the two masters stood their ground. With each movement, Sidious realized he would not be able to defeat them. In a moment of desperation, he released a wave of energy that broke part of the wall, creating an escape route. The Sith turned and ran down the illuminated corridor, saber still in hand. Behind him, Yoda and Mace began the chase, but Palpatine was fast, determined to escape and regain control of the Senate. His black cape fluttered as he advanced toward the main exit. The silence of the corridors was broken only by the metallic sound of his boots and the hiss of his lightsaber. As he approached the large door, a figure was already waiting for him. Anakin stood there, his blue lightsaber activated, blocking his exit. The young Jedi had his eyes fixed on his enemy, his breathing heavy, but his posture firm. "You won't get past me," he said, his voice laden with something more than courage. There was conviction. Palpatine paused for a moment, surprised. "Anakin, you don't understand. I am the key to saving Padme. You must let me live." The words struck Anakin's heart, and he faltered for a second. It was the temptation he had always feared. But at that moment, a voice echoed in his mind, clear and calm, as if coming from all corners of the Force. It was Luke. "Bring balance to the Force, Anakin." The echo resounded strongly, dispelling the shadow of doubt. He knew what he had to do. Palpatine tried to advance, his red blade raging against the young Jedi. Anakin blocked the blow firmly, and the clash lit up the corridor. The duel began intensely, the Sith pouring out all his hatred, while Anakin responded with speed and strength. Each impact made the air tremble. Palpatine's dark power seemed inexhaustible, but Anakin was overcome by something greater, the certainty that he was the chosen one. Yoda and Mace reached the end of the corridor and saw the scene. The two masters stopped, watching the confrontation. Destiny was now in Anakin's hands. The young Jedi advanced with precision, blow after blow, until he disarmed the Sith. Palpatine fell to his knees, trying to shoot lightning bolts at him, but Anakin raised his saber and advanced, cutting the attack in half and piercing his enemy's chest. Sidious's scream echoed until it was silenced forever. The Sith's body fell to the ground, and the darkness that enveloped the Republic began to dissipate. Anakin stood still, panting, staring at his defeated enemy. Luke's voice still echoed in his mind, like a distant memory that was beginning to fade. Yoda walked up to him and said, "The right choice you made. Balance you have brought." Mace Windu, serious as ever, nodded. "Today we have prevented the fall of the Order. But remember, Skywalker, this is not the end. It is only the beginning of a burden you now carry." Anakin turned off his lightsaber and looked at the two masters. Inside, he felt torn, but also freer than he had ever been. He had made the right choice. Obi-Wan arrived shortly after, looking at Anakin with a mixture of pride and concern. "You went against the Council's orders, but without you, none of this would have been possible." Anakin didn't respond. He just stared at the horizon through the windows of Coruscant. It felt like Luke had gone away forever, but he had left him with the strength he needed to fulfill his destiny.